Jose Mercado. My wife Yanez and I were both brought into the world by way of Puerto Rico, me in 1950 and she 5 years later. Not long after we were married, I enlisted in the Navy. I always wanted to do something heroic. With the Navy, I traveled to Vietnam, Grenada, the Persian Gulf, and Bosnia. I was injured in Bosnia, which requires me to use a walker now, but I came home. I came home. And that is all any soldier cares about. I love the esoteric things in life. My father used to call me an aesthete. He meant it not as a compliment, of course. He was disappointed by my interests and by the fact that they were not the same as his, which were farming and raising livestock. He believed a man should work hard with his hands, that toil and sweat were evidence of a virtuous life. He did not appreciate that I wanted to read books and that I saved money to buy an easel when I turned 15, and that I would spend the afternoons painting pictures of trees. The only time he was proud of me, in fact, was when I joined the Navy. He was an old man by then, nearing death, but I still remember his face when I told him the way he had smiled with those teeth of his that were brown around the edges, the way the wrinkles rippled up to the surface of his cheeks. Yanez was not as happy about it. She supported me, but she was worried. We never had children. We knew from the outset, and in a terribly selfish way, that our interests lay only in each other. So when she was home during my deployments, she was there alone, and the weight of the solitude depressed her, I think, and gave her wide open plains upon which her mind would wander, allowing her too much time and space to think about what might be happening to me, as well as whether and when I would return. When I came back from Vietnam, she wept at my feet. I saw clearly the toll it had taken on her, but I wasn't ready to leave the Navy. I had witnessed the sort of atrocities during the war that threatened to steal a man's soul. I saw that humans are no better than any animal or brute, and in many cases might be infinitely worse. But often in the span of the same day, I would be restored to by the courage of men. And I had come to understand my father's perspective about the gratification of feeling useful, of being in the world under the most demanding circumstances, and learning that I could not only survive, but thrive, and that my body, the physical presence of me, could have import. So 8 years later, I left again, but this time while I was away, I wrote Yanez letters. If she heard from me with enough regularity, I thought it would ease her worry. Over the years, over subsequent deployments, I sent her hundreds of letters. I wrote 2 or 3 a day sometimes. They began as a way to save her, but they saved me also. They helped me to make sense of the things I saw, and from that, I began to make sense of the world and my place within it. I read a lot of poetry in those days. I took small chapbooks overseas with me, chapbooks bound by staples with covers that were little more than construction paper. I copied the poems down sometimes and included them in my letters. Yanez used to tell me I should write my own poetry, but just because you have the requisite admiration and even ambition to do something doesn't mean you're up to the task of performing it yourself, which was the case for me. I am good at being a reader of poetry, but not at much beyond that. My eyes have turned against me now, so I am resigned to listening to books on CD. Sometimes Yanez reads poetry aloud to me. I no longer have any of those chapbooks that used to keep me company in so many far-flung places. I usually burn them after I finish them, just to lighten my load. But Yanez borrows books from the library, and we sit on the couch, and she covers me with an afghan and draws her slender feet up onto the cushions, and I close my eyes while she reads. There's an American poet named Marvin Bell who emerged in the late 60s during the height of the Vietnam War. He has a beautiful poem called Poem After Carlos Drummond de Andrade, which is a reference to the great Brazilian poet. I love the part that goes, and it's life, just life, that makes you breathe deeply, in the air that is filled with wood smoke and the dust of the factory, because you hurried, and now your lungs heave and fall with nervous excitement of a leaf in spring breezes, though it is winter and you are swallowing the dirt of the town. And then this portion at the end, which means everything to me. Life got its tentacles around you, its hooks into your heart, and suddenly you come awake, as if for the first time, and you are standing in a part of the town where the air is sweet, your face flushed, your chest thumping, your stomach a planet, your heart a planet, your every organ a separate planet, all of it of a piece, though the pieces turn separately. O silent indications of the inevitable, as among the natural restraints of winter and good sense, life blows you apart in her arms.